Hi, and welcome to Build with Becky Program 3. Here's a little overview of the third phase of Build with Becky. This program will be a full body hypertrophy and strength phase up to 3 days per week, depending on your level and your time availability. You will once again have the option of completing this with a full gym available to you, with minimal equipment like dumbbells and bands, or perhaps with minimal to no equipment, mostly body weight. Right off the bat, I've got a dragonfly just going to town up on the roof of my garage, so hopefully that's not too distracting of a sound in the background for you. But this program, we will be practicing the major movement patterns like usual: squat, split squat, lunge, hinge, push, press, pull, core in there as well. But we will specifically be focusing on trying to get personal bests out of the hinge pattern, and in particular, we'll be focusing on hip thrust variations again, kind of like program 1, and then on chin-ups when it comes to the pull variation. So while I want you to work on everything and to attempt to strengthen everything, if you're going to put special emphasis somewhere, this program is designed to help you focus a little bit more on hip thrusts and chin-ups, just for a little heads up going into it. There's a couple changes this month that I just want to bring to your attention up front. So as usual, I will give you some direction on how to warm up. And then after your warm up, I will still be giving you 2 supersets and a finisher, but the supersets will have 2 changes to them compared with previous programs. So the first change is that in the past, you may remember, we always did a superset with a lower body movement followed by an upper body movement. And the rationale was that the lower body was working while the upper body was resting, and then vice versa. So it was a little more efficient, and you didn't have to rest as long, which was ideal for building muscular endurance in our first phase, and then a little more endurance plus some hypertrophy, some starting to build muscle size in the second program. Now this program, we're continuing to work on hypertrophy, gaining muscle size, but we're also starting to inch into building strength. And granted, you've been getting stronger the whole time, but that's actually a technical term within the literature of moving from endurance, which is higher reps and lower weight, to hypertrophy, which is a little lower reps and a little higher weight to gain muscle size, and a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, to then building strength, which is lower reps yet, and once again bumping the weight. So that's what we're getting into this month. Still some hypertrophy starting to edge into strength. So what you will notice with that is when it comes to the supersets, the 2 changes. One is that the first superset is going to be entirely lower body, and the second superset will be entirely upper body. So I'm doing that intentionally. I want there to be less rest for the lower body. I want it to have more time under tension, and I want that to send a signal to your nervous system to add more muscle, to adapt and get stronger. The way that you do that is more time under tension. Then once you tax the muscle fully, having a longer rest period, and then going hard again, fewer reps but heavier weight, lots of time under tension, and then resting a little longer. So when you think of this program, I want you to think a little slower, a little heavier, more mindful and intentional movement. Doesn't really matter at all how fast you go. You can go as slow as you need to really be making every rep count, especially if you're doing the weighted versions of things. You'll also notice that the overall volume will go down. So we're going to baby step down. If you're doing the weighted versions, you're going to be in the 4 to 8, maybe 10 rep range. And then if you're doing the body weight or the band versions, you might just think about adding a lot of tension to your body throughout the movement to make every rep count. Because we're going for strength, and because you still want to remain safe, especially if you're training independently and at home, you might consider, instead of always adding more weight, if it's getting pretty heavy, adding another set. So don't hesitate, especially in weeks 3 and 4, to maybe bump even to 4 sets or even maybe 5 sets. Just depends on you. If you kind of feel like you get to 3 sets, and because the reps are lower, you feel like you have more gas in the tank, feel free to add another set in there, and maybe one of the sets you did before kind of becomes a warm-up set in your mind. Totally cool to do that. The other thing I'm going to start introducing is intraset mobility. So you might have heard like the term muscle bound before. That's actually not really a thing, but what is true is as you gain strength, you get tighter in your body, and it can be more difficult to feel like you get into a full range of motion. And of course, if you're not putting your muscle through a full range of motion, let's say you're doing like a squat and you're only getting to here versus getting all the way down here and all the way up, obviously the second one is going to be more optimal for building muscle. So you want to maintain a great range of motion, and the best way to do that as you get stronger is to incorporate it throughout your workout. So of course there's the warm-up and maybe some cool-down mobility, but I'm going to show you basically just like little mini mobility movements you can do between the sets as well to keep things flowing, to kind of make sure you're resting, because a lot of people struggle with actually taking rest periods. So it kind of gives you something to do in the rest period along with take your notes. And then it'll just keep you feeling really good, keep you from getting too tight as you build that muscle. So those are the two changes to expect. One fully lower body superset, one fully upper body superset, plus intraset mobility. Then the finisher this month is going to be for your arms, kind of like an accessory aesthetic arm finisher. So it will be 3 movements. One will be for biceps, one will be for triceps, so bicep, back of the arm, tricep, and then one will be for deltoids. And your deltoids are like your shoulder muscles. So on one day, we'll be doing front delts. On another day, lateral delts, the side of your shoulder, and on the last day, reverse delts. So just know if you're only going to do 1 or 2 days a week, but you really would like to work on the back of your shoulders, you could take the day 3 shoulder movement and put it with day 1 or day 2 bicep or tricep movement. That's really cool to do. But that was at the request of a couple people who wanted to work on arms, so I added that in there. I also just wanted to address a question I had about core. I had a question about like kind of expecting there to be more core in the program, wondering why there wasn't more core. Not super sure what's behind the thought in that question, other than I know a lot of us, are sensitive about our midsection and would like it to be more toned and to feel stronger, and maybe address if you have back pain, you want a strong core, that kind of thing. So I would say 2 things to that. One, I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding about the core. The core is literally it's not just like your 6-pack abs. That's the rectus abdominis. That's one muscle, and your core is many, many muscles, including everything that wraps around the back as well. So one thing to know is literally everything in this program is core, especially if you are doing any kind of lifting, but especially like barbell lifting or heavier lifting. When I'm talking about when to inhale and when to exhale, that's because you're engaging your core. So for example, let's say you are doing a deadlift and you're controlling down, and then as you come up, you exhale to come up. That is working your core, and it's working your core arguably more effectively than crunches or something would. That said, there is still benefit to keeping the spine, able to flex, able to extend, able to move laterally. You want to be able to reach into the back of your car to get something without throwing out your back, something like that. So I am going to add a little bit of core specific work to the warm-up to address that piece of the puzzle, and because I think it will just feel good to prep your core before those heavy lifts that then do that core work. But just know there's also a difference between building your core in this almost like preventative, keeping your back and your core and your body prepped and safe way, versus I think what a lot of women are saying when they say they want to work core is really like they're maybe a little bit sensitive about their level of body fat, or maybe they are happy with their level of body fat and they want a visible 6-pack. I personally have found that even when I'm at a low body fat percentage and I can see my muscles more, when I build them specifically and I realize like, oh, they actually then, like any muscle, stick out more. And then maybe I am not loving the look or feel or function, honestly, of that. If you have any kind of pelvic floor issues, sometimes it can exacerbate those. But I think there's some some misunderstanding, some miscomprehension about what it means to build your core. Like, if you're wanting a flat stomach, let me just say right now, that is going to be addressed by nutrition and paying attention to what you're eating, because that's really just addressing your body fat level. And we're more so building muscle here, but you can also undergo body recomposition if you're mindful of your diet in addition to building muscle. If you're wanting a visible six-pack, you might want to actually build your core. You may not know what that feels like yet, and you may change your mind as you do it, similar to what I've experienced. Because there's just a difference between like a flat stomach and having six-pack abs. So I'm not even necessarily saying one is good or one is bad, just that awareness that I think a lot of times the way we talk about core in the fitness industry is kind of confusing and kind of misleading. And then I think on top of it, women are socialized about our bodies to like desire a very certain kind of not only silhouette, but like flatness or visibleness of the core. Plus, we just have a lot of sensitivity about our midsections. And that could be for any reason. Like, I have that myself. I don't love the midsection area of my body, but it is very functional and it protects me when I'm lifting, and it's completely fine. And I'm sure I would be even more sensitive about it if I had had children and maybe had also grown a child inside of my body and had evidence of that on my body, which is not something that I think is helpful that we hear in society about, like snapping back or I don't even know what all the terms are, but just that idea of like your body and needing it to like get back to how it was before. Like, I think our bodies go through all these amazing phases, and all of them are valid, and all of them are part of the journey. And you have body autonomy to do anything you want. So, one, body neutrality. A body that has visible six-pack is not like better or worse than a flat stomach body is not better or worse than a body that has more body fat on it. We all know that at some level, but like explicitly reprogramming our brain to believe that. And then on the other hand, knowing if you desire something like that, you do have the autonomy to do that. So what we're going to do in this program is make sure our core is strong, make sure that it facilitates the lifts that get us stronger overall. And then if you do want more on top of that, there's always nutrition. I can refer you to a dietitian or a nutritionist if that's something that you're interested in. Or you can do things independently, completely. There's a lot of options there, and I can share resources, but I don't personally coach on nutrition. And then there's also, a lot of exercises you could do to explicitly build your core out if that's something that's of interest to you. So that was kind of a lot on core, but just wanted to touch on that in case it's been a question. Then just the last thing to mention is that we'll be adding that week 5 to the program. So just remember, as you go through the weeks, as life is happening, I really want you to find a way to fit this fitness into your life rather than bend your life backwards to fit some kind of program. So just remember, you have week 5, and if that means you have visitors for a week and it's just easier to be present with them, and then use week 5 to catch up and get your 4 weeks in, that's great. If you're traveling and it's just tough to get it in, use that week 5. If you need a deload on week 5 and you were consistent for weeks 1 through 4, do that. If you just want to do some other joyful forms of movement, like go to a dance or a yoga class or get a massage or whatever it is, that's awesome. Or if you just are like, you know what, I love the program and I need that consistency and accountability, just do the program for a 5th week, and it could be either another attempt at personal records, personal bests, or you just do your favorite lifts and you do them at whatever RPE and effort level you desire. There doesn't need to be a certain level that you're hitting that 5th week. It could just be for the joy of it, okay? So keep in mind, we'll have that kind of play, prep, and catch-up week, and that will also get you the program coming ahead so you can look ahead. Hopefully that will be helpful to everybody, just to build in a little bit of buffer, a little bit of grace to our days. Hope this is a helpful overview for you of what to expect. Next up is day 1.